You are listening to Season 2 of The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, the short and often daily podcast in which I chronicle my life and attempt to be a writer by writing daily. Sometimes. Hello, today is Saturday the 7th of June 2025 and you are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, and I did kind of suggest that I might do this from an interesting location today that I'd be in. Well, I've done one from Times Square before, haven't I? But I kind of suggested I might do this from Central Park. Well, I haven't done that, I'm afraid, because I have done some exercise today. I went down to the gym this morning and did 10 miles on the static bike, which I really didn't enjoy, but I feel good for having done it. And then I decided I would come back to... No, I didn't. I had breakfast first. And it's one of those buffets, and I'm normally terribly badly behaved with buffets and feel that I've got to get my money's worth. But actually today, because I'd just been to the gym, I didn't do that. I had quite a lot of fruit and yoghurt, and then I had some porridge as well. But no, I ate sensibly, and I came back up to my room and started doing some work on chapters 24 and 25. And in fact, I managed to get those signed off. So, as of today, the 7th, I've done 5 of the 10 chapters I had targeted myself with this month. And I'm very pleased with that because, well, I mean, it just puts me very, very far ahead of my schedule. But that's good because it means I can get this finished earlier than perhaps I thought I might. I don't think I'm going to get far enough ahead to get it finished this month. Having said that, you never know, because I've got I think I clear from my Singapore-Sydney trip on the 25th. Let me just have a look. Oh, my phone's now trying to do something silly. That's annoying. I think I clear on the 25th. Yes. So I get home from Singapore-Sydney on the 25th, and then I've got the rest of that month off. So that's another, 7 days, pretty much, before I then start my 5 days off. But yes, I've got 5 days off at the end of this month before I start my unpaid leave month, so that's really good. And it probably means I'm going to get a lot further than I thought I might get this month. I don't think I will get as far as finishing this draft this month, but then that was never the intention. So if I don't, that's absolutely fine. But it would be nice to only have a handful of chapters left to do in July, which then frees me up in July to have a bit of fun because I'm not working. But just as importantly, I really want to get to work on the next. As I said earlier, I'm doing this podcast as part of a live stream, by the way. I kind of said earlier that I want to do some work on the still life sequel, which is called Self-Portrait. Now, as part of NaNoWriMo, I think in 2022, I did write the first 12,000 words in the first 3 chapters of it. However, I've reread it and I don't like pretty much any of what I've written. So there is a prologue, which it needs to be there, and the contents of it need to be there. So kind of generally what happens in the prologue doesn't need to change, but I absolutely despise the way I've written it. So I'm going to write it from scratch without looking at that one again. I'm not going to try and edit it. I'm just going to start again with the prologue. It's set in 1918, and it features an unnamed soldier who has been kidnapped from the battlefield and told he's got to paint a picture of himself. And he's very but they're going to think I've deserted. I need to get back to my unit. They think I've deserted. And they're like, no, you're never going back to unit. His captor is like, you're never going back to your unit. His captor isn't Max Sosi, but we find out later in the book it's Sosi's apprentice. I do have the name for the character, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. And then chapter 1 was just ghastly. It was set in a hospital after an attempted suicide by Molly Smith, and I don't think she would. I look back at kind of why I wrote it, and I'm not sure. I think it was to try and get some empathy for the character. But if you've read the first book, you've got plenty of empathy for the character anyway. And she's a bloody strong young lady. I don't think she would do that. And so that's just going to go. There may be an attempted suicide from one of the temporal refugees later in the story. It won't be Molly. Molly is the one that's going to hold it all together, and she basically is going to take on a role within the Sutherland Institute, and she is going to try and help these people from the past adapt to the modern day. And one of her charges may end up doing an attempted suicide. Somebody actually suggested to me, could one of Sosie's victims be pregnant? And I thought, yes, she could. And so that is something I am going to pursue in the second book. But the whole storyline of, which is basically Isabel visiting Molly in hospital after a suicide attempt that she kind of admits was more a cry for help than a genuine attempt to die. It's just shit, and it's gone. It won't be coming back. That chapter is going to be excised completely. And then the third chapter was catching up on what's happened to Saywood, who basically has changed her name. She is now called Grace, and I can't remember what her surname is, but she's changed her name to Grace. And that's interesting because Saywood's original name was Grace. She was Grace Amapofo in quite a few pages, quite a few chapters of the first draft, and then I remembered the name Saywood, and Saywood is a name I've had in the back of my head for years. It was actually the name of someone I used to work with. Nobody liked my character. I just remember thinking, that's a cool name, I like that, sort of mentally banking it and never doing anything with it. And when I knew Grace wasn't the right name for my character, suddenly realised, right, Saywood. So she's living under the name Grace something or other. She's built so many mental barriers around her mind that she can't accidentally reach out to someone. But one thing I've established in the first book is that physical contact you can't have barriers for. So if she touches someone or someone touches her and they've both got abilities, they will still be able to recognise that in each other. And she meets this Chinese immigrant who's here legally, but his mother isn't. And his mother has a terminal disease, and basically this lad is working his arse off to try and get enough money to pay for the medication to keep her alive. And so that element of the story isn't going to change. That's the one chapter I may not rewrite. Saywood doesn't have a relationship with the Sutherland Institute. She's completely managed to stay away from it. However, she is still in touch with what's his name, Jagvir Singh. He kind of, he is. She is still in touch with him, and occasionally gets his advice on how to deal with certain things if they come up in terms of her abilities and stuff like that. So the prologue and chapter 1. Prologue will be rewritten. Chapter 1 is gone, and chapter 2, which was the one which introduces us to Saywood's life, probably has the most material in it that will be kept, but it's still not great and will be changed. Anyway, that's me for today. I'm recording live from New York. New York time, it's about midday. UK time, it's about 5:30 in the afternoon. I'm going to go now, and I will talk to you again tomorrow from, hopefully, my home. Take care. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. For more information about what I'm writing, go to linktr.ee/Richard Writes, capital R, capital W, where you can find details of my website and social media. I may see you there.